Hi, it's Ralph and Lonnie from Planetary Calendar Astrology. And I just want to take a minute to say if you haven't liked and subscribed to our channel yet, please take a minute and do that because it really helps us to keep this channel alive. So if you enjoy the content, please show us that you do.
You can always find us, of course, at planetarycalendar.com.
There you go. And we're looking at June 2026. Now, that's not I have to really be careful how I say that because this time of year we're in between worlds, so to speak. We just got the 2027 calendar off to the printer, which includes a forecast for 2028, as well as all of the facts and factoids for 2027. And yet here we are still doing the shows for 2026. So
Yes.
let's all make sure we're on the same page. Get your calendar and we'll get going.
And by the time you watch this, hopefully, the pocket and the day planner, which both have gone through modifications this year, should both be up live and for sale. So you can find them out there. And we're very excited about them because there were some really cool design changes in them this year. So nevertheless, what happened in June? What's happening in June of 2026, Lonnie?
Well, a couple of long void of course moons plague the first week, making it very difficult to stay on task.
It's so true. It's so true. This precedes several relatively social weeks. As summer approaches, June only has one black box and one white circle day, encouraging a more social rather than work-related month. And here are the days to watch. And it starts bam on the first.
Bam on the first with a gray outline box. Now, I'm glad we finally kind of conformed that in a way, then we're used to saying it now instead of a gray box. It's the gray outline.
Yes.
But we have that on the first because there's a long void, of course, that actually started on the 31st of May.
Exactly.
So we've got that going on when the moon was in Sagittarius.
Yes. Now, realize that when Mercury goes into the sign of the crab, it's coming out of Gemini. Gemini is its very, very social position. Mercury in the sign of the crab, Cancer, is a bit more closed mouth. It's a bit more, what's in it for me kind of thing. But it's a great time for doing tasks around the house. It's a great time to doing things with family. Making sure, for instance, everyone has their summer clothes ready. You want to make sure you look nice. So it's a very good position for that. Now, Mercury is starting to slow down. Remember, we told you last month it was moving real fast, so a great time to do, all kinds of communication issues. But now it's going to slow down, and it's actually going to turn retrograde on the 29th. So all month long, as it moves through the sign of the crab, it's going to be gradually slowing down.
Well, and a lot's going on the 29th, which is why we didn't make a special mention of Jupiter, but we'll get to that when we get a little further on in the forecast.
Exactly.
Get out your red pen to make a little circle on there.
Now, on the 3rd, you have the black box, right, on that Wednesday. And if you look at those aspects, you have, Venus is opposite the moon. Jupiter's opposite the moon. Like the two nice guys are both opposite the moon. And the moon's in Capricorn, which is, it's a strong position, but if you think of this, if you have a particularly strong grandmother in your life who makes sure that you stick to the rules, that's moon in Capricorn.
And that Thursday, the 4th, looks like a little low stress day, balancing out
social.
all the long void of courses that fill in that week, 3 of them, and that black box. So.
Yeah, exactly.
If you want a little oasis that day, plan on the 4th.
On the Friday, you have another long void, of course. But the moon is going to be trine to the sun on that day. And I imagine that's in the morning before the void, of course, goes into place. So in the morning of the Friday, it's a great time to get stuff done. But when you get to maybe take a long lunch. Go take a nice long lunch.
Until Saturday.
Until Saturday, exactly.
And then Saturday, you're just going to zone out anyway, because that's void of course too, all day.
You got a long void of course, and the only big aspect going on to the moon is going to be, which is after the moon enters Pisces, the dolphins, is going to be the square to Uranus. So, I mean, it's like, you finally get there and it's like, whoa, who's this kind of thing.
And that's kind of the guideline for that gray outline box is that it's got to be a void, of course, that's at least 8 to 10 to 12 hours long, something that really can trip you up. Because even if you notice, oh, there's the void of course markings at the bottom of the box, if you're not looking at the times and actually calculating that whole thing, or if you misread, an AM and a PM and you think it's a little bit shorter, that box will call your attention to the fact that this could be one of those days where you might forget something important or not allow your time correctly or something like that with scheduling or...
And remember something we mentioned to you last time. Always look at what were the planets that the moon was making contacts with before it goes void of course. Like who did it talk with last? So if you look back on the Friday, it was making a sextile to Saturn, and it was making a square to Mars, and then the trine to the Sun. So it enters this void of course in a pretty serious mood, don't you think?
Well, yeah.
And the moon in a Saturnian sign as well. So it's going to be a bit of a serious afternoon.
I think the square to Mars is the one where you would really stub your toes.
Yes.
That sextile Saturn, just means you're going to be more organized.
Well, it might be a good time for dealing with some serious issues, you might say.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, and then who's next? We got the third quarter moon on the 8th. And what's our next asterisk?
It's until the 13th.
Is the 13th?
Saturday the 13th.
Though on the 11th is
Kamehameha, King Kamehameha. How is
you got
that?
to say that.
I was
hoping
Hawaiian
to say
in
that.
another lifetime. Don't I?
King
look
Kamehameha
Hawaiian?
Day. How can you resist saying that? But on the 13th, Venus is going to enter the sign of the Lion, Leo, at 3:46 a.m. And the other thing that's going on that day, which is really lovely, is there's a whole lineup of positive aspects to the moon. There's a sextile to Jupiter, a sextile to Venus, a conjunction with Uranus, which is going to make it kind of exciting, a sextile to Neptune, and a trine to Pluto.
Now remember, when you see that lineup of glyphs on top of the number, that means it's a very socialized day because all of these planets are having contact to the moon, your emotional life. And so this is a really good day for socializing.
And remember, Venus is going into the sign of the Lion. It's the sign of the heart. If you have the sun in Leo, the moon in Leo, Leo rising, be prepared to feel much more charming, much more indulged, much more willing to be indulged during this transit, because those Venus transits, they do not last long enough. But if they lasted any longer, that could be a problem.
Well, and the moon is in flirty Gemini for just
Exactly.
about all of the day after 6 a.m. So
Yeah, exactly. So it's
it's
going
a fun day.
It should be very entertaining. Yes. And
I
then-
would put a gold star on that.
Ooh, okay,
Yeah.
where's my pen? That one. Okay. So it always does have an asterisk, and then we have an asterisk the next day on the 14th,
Flag Day.
Flag Day, which is the new moon, and at 24 degrees Gemini.
I threw in a few Sabian symbols. Hopefully you're familiar with the Sabian symbols, and they're just a real fun oracle. In way to use them is a good way to use them. I'm sorry. And the Sabian symbol for that day, for the 24th degree of Gemini, is a gardener trimming large palm trees. And it says the indication for that Sabian symbol is clearing away impediments from the past for a fresh, clean start. Boy, oh boy, does that appeal to my Scorpio nature.
Especially on the new moon, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think that's sort of a boost for that new moon.
I think it's cool too, because we should put it on there, but June 14th is also the anniversary of what's called the Bear Flag Rebellion, when California declared itself independent from Mexico, just a few miles away from where we live on the Sonoma Plaza.
So it's Flag Day and it's Bear Flag Day.
And Bear Flag Day. It's just
Exactly.
coincidental. So now the next asterisk is on the 16th, the Tuesday. What do we say about that? That looks interesting. You got a nice Venus trine Neptune. What do we put there? 16th. If you need another day to kick off a personal or business project, consider the 16th. The only challenging aspect is the crab moon square Saturn in Aries. But this is the position parents take when giving children support while urging caution. Here, Mom, the moon, empowers Mercury and Mars, while Dad, Saturn, asks, "Did you recheck all the details?" Meanwhile, Venus gives her blessing with a parallel to Jupiter and a trine to Neptune. Good idea, guys. Go for it. So yeah, it's a very lovely day. It's really interesting transits.
You will notice that Ralph embraces his new ideas completely. So even if it says Cancer on the calendar, he might say crab. And a few times I was indulging him and put the word crab on as the sign of Cancer. But we know that Cancer is Cancer the crab, right?
We know that the crab is sometimes called Cancer, yes.
Oh, okay.
I grew up in New Jersey, and I spent my summers either surfing or working as an ocean lifeguard along the Jersey Shore. I love crabs.
If you want a bigger explanation about why he gets so militant about this stuff, read our book,
Reclaiming Astrology from the Patriarchy. Yes. The story of the stolen zodiac begins. Yes.
Okay. Well, so we were on the 16th, and now we're going to look at the rest of that week. Is kind of just a moderate social, nothing terrible. I love how we put on the 20th no exact aspects today, which seems like a silly thing to do, but we didn't want people to think we just forgot it, made a mistake or something like that. So
we didn't space it.
We didn't space it. It's on the bottom. So that's your holiday. No exact aspects today, and then the void of courses. We didn't space it.
Yeah, you have to understand just how complex putting this calendar is. We're publishers, and we publish about 50 different books. There is no project that we do
that is more work intensive, more detailed, more time consuming, and yet if we could just remember what we wrote about 26 after we wrote 27,
right,
and did so we have to look up the calendar just like you do, because it's like the first time for us again. It was so long that we did all this work.
Yeah, and I have been going crazy trying to think of what Chinese New Year chart am I thinking of? Is it the one for 26 or 27? Because it's a very dramatic chart, but I can't remember which year it is. I really should look. So February.
Yeah, better you should look before we start to hit the record button, right?
I know I should.
Well, let's go on to the 21st. Sunday the 21st, the sun enters Cancer. Go ahead, say it.
The crab.
That's right.
The time of year when you go down the shore and you go hunting for crustaceans, and in the evening you get firewood and you boil and cook crabs for dinner.
And that's the original meaning for the sign.
And it's a true
noting the time of year it was in the cycle.
It's a true sign that your mother and your grandmother all love you.
And it's also Father's Day. So you've got Father's Day, the sun entering Cancer.
Summer solstice.
You've got the first quarter moon. You've got a void of course for the middle of the day. And that's sun square moon, of course, for the first quarter moon. And you got a whole lineup of social planets above the numbers. So this isn't the day where Dad gets to sit and watch the game by himself or go off and play golf.
No.
He's got to interact with everybody today.
Yes.
Because he's not a dad unless he's got a bunch of kids.
Right, exactly.
Or a kid.
Exactly.
Right.
Good point. Oh, by the way, the chart I was thinking about, this really ballistic chart, is actually 2027, not 2026.
All right, well, put
no
a pin in that.
No problem. We're cool for now. Okay. Okay, then
we have some moderate days again, with a month that has so many.
By the way, that was a wonderful interpretation for the 21st. Thank you so much.
With so many bumps in the road sprinkled throughout the June, it's nice to have these kind of moderate days here in that what's that, the fourth week of June. And then we get to the 26th, which I don't know why there wasn't an asterisk on here. I guess because there's no hard aspect. There's just that Mercury parallel Mars, which I think is kind of more significant than some of the parallels are, because these two are our action figures, and
yes,
really they are. So all that whole lineup of all those trines to the moon and Then we've got a couple of those uh, oppositions to Mars and to Uranus. Those are the two you don't want to be opposed, have the moon opposed. So this is a tricky day. It's kind of a balancing act, but you're not alone. There's a lot of people involved. There's a
Yes.
lot of energies going on this day. So
Expect a certain amount of chaos.
watch out for that day. The void, of course, is pretty short, thank goodness.
Yes.
But pay attention on that day, and don't feel like you have to do it alone, because there's a lot of help out there for you.
Exactly. Then on the 27th is the one white circle in the entire month, which is a little shocking. It's a very supportive one. The players are Saturn and Venus, both trining an optimistic Sagittarius moon, supporting your ideas. Mars is sextile Jupiter, which makes physical tasks easier and puts your long-term vision in sync with your short-term efforts. That whenever you have really nice aspects between Jupiter and Mars, a sextile or a trine, these tend to be very good times for managing resources. Like people with those aspects in their chart tend to always seem to find ways to money when they need them.
And I'm glad that the milder aspect between Jupiter and Uranus is that parallel, because if it was a stronger aspect, Jupiter makes things bigger and Uranus can make things chaotic. So, let's just have that parallel, and they're just waving at each other as they pass.
When you consider, if you think of Uranus as oftentimes being related to surprises or new things, and Jupiter making things bigger, the combination of them.
Boo factor.
Exactly. It just, there's like great inventions and, great surprises. And some people don't like surprises.
Well, and Uranus is in Gemini, which is the boo sign anyway.
Yes.
They love surprises.
Yes.
So it's like surprises squared.
Yes, exactly. So now Mars is going to be on the 28th. There's a long void of course that goes on. And the void of course actually starts on the 27th, goes all the way through the 28th, and then lands in the 29th. Now, the one saving grace for this particular void of course is the sign it's in. It's in Jupiter's ruling sign, aka Sagittarius, the archer, and that's a position the moon really likes. If you read our book Reclaiming, you'll see that the moon's secondary ruling sign. You see, in Western astrology, we say, oh, the moon only gets one ruling sign. Sun gets one ruling sign. They got kind of shortchanged. The system's not designed that way. The geometry makes no sense. When you look at the secret triangles, you realize the moon's got two ruling signs and two detriment signs or family signs. And its secondary sign is Sagittarius, which it shares with Jupiter. And that's the thing about the sun and the moon as lights. They share their secondary signs with other bodies because it's mom and dad. They're always having to share. They have to share their laps. They have to share their desserts. They have to share everything. So this means that Sagittarius especially is the moon's other sign. So when it's in its own sign, mom has her own credit cards at that point. She has her own money. She came into the family with money. So don't worry about it. So this is a relatively easy void, of course, and kind of self-directed. The Mars entering Gemini, watch out for turbulence around there. Whenever planets change sign, especially the intimate ones, Mercury, Venus, Mars, you tend to feel disruption. And it's going into Gemini, which is by nature a disruptive sign. So beware of be careful driving. You will notice that on that day, every time you turn around, it seems like there's another crazy driver. Where do they come from? What, the kind of things.
Or that yellow light was awful short.
Yes.
I know it was yellow when I was in the middle of that intersection, but
exactly.
The camera caught me.
There's going to be a lot of stuff like that. So be especially cautious when Mars during that transition, and then later on, even when Mars is in the early degrees.
Especially since we're heading for the full moon the next day.
Yes.
And what we forgot to make a special note of on the 29th is the fact that Jupiter enters Leo. Now, if Mars entering Gemini is a cause for turbulence, then I think Jupiter changing signs is also a cause for turbulence. Although it's very big-hearted, it's very opening up. I mean, we're going to enjoy Jupiter in Leo a lot more than we were able to connect with it, Jupiter in Cancer.
It's a little bit like being surprised by the fact that you're home one day and you get a And someone says, someone's pulling up in the driveway, and you look out and your parents have just arrived in a really big car. It's like, whoa, or your boss or your, someone who has influence has just arrived. And that's what Jupiter in Leo is going to be like. In the same way I mentioned before that anyone who has Venus in Leo will be feeling, more gracious. If you have Jupiter in Leo, wherever you have Leo in your chart is now going to expand. And remember, Jupiter normally stays in a sign for about as much as a year, sometimes less, but generally as much as a year.
Yeah, if you're born in the year of the rabbit, you get a short little 6-month Jupiter return.
Could be good, could be bad.
That was. How do you cheat an astrologer like that? I don't think that's legal.
Not fair at all.
No.
But this full moon, what do we actually say about the full moon?
And Mercury goes retrograde that day. I mean, could you have more turbulence?
Yeah, exactly. Mercury goes retrograde.
And the full moon.
And Mercury's going retrograde on what degree? Turns retrograde on the 29th at 26 degrees of the Crab, so late in the sign. And you have... we wrote about this in the thing in the description. The 8 degrees Capricorn, where this full moon is taking place, is actually aligned with a well-known star called Precedes. It's a difficult star in the face of the Archer. It's known for aggressive behavior, so be aware of what's happening in the news. It's interesting that this was actually a star. It was called related to the Archer because it was relatively faint. But to be an archer in the Roman army, you had to be able to see that star because it was faint. I mean, you had to have that. Your eyesight had to be that good.
Well, and I wanted to mention that Mercury is turning retrograde at 26 Cancer, which the Sabian symbol says a furious storm rages through a residential canyon filled with valuable homes. And if you live in California or on the West Coast, we're already starting to see these fire dangers coming up. So be extra vigilant. We write on here, take extra precautions, especially in storm and fire prone areas. So do all the things that you're supposed to do to either limit the chance of it or make sure that you can have your defensible space or a plan B for sure.
Now, while I ask your forgiveness for not writing more about Jupiter in here or at all, which was really my mistake, what I am going to say is, aren't you lucky you're watching the forecast? Because you get to find out all the special stuff that's not in the calendar.
Well, that's the value added. Just like when I send out the email to you, the subscribers, so that we're posting this up on there. I also do another little quick overview of the forecast for you based on a more current look at trends.
Yes.
Because when we're writing this 18 months ago.
Yes, exactly.
And so, it's helpful to see how those trends are going and what they're leading up to, and maybe tweaking a few of the little nuances about the way you look at the calendar. So we keep giving you value added.
And this really matters with Jupiter, and I'll tell you why. When Jupiter goes into the first degrees of Leo, right, it's now going to be sextile Uranus, right at the first degrees of Gemini. So we mentioned before about how when Jupiter and Uranus work together, it creates really sudden changes. It's also going to be trine Saturn in Aries. Saturn has to do with big structures. Jupiter relating to big structures. We could see a building boom going on. We're always seeing a building boom going on with data centers, and there's a huge amount of pushback against that. So you're triggering Neptune, and you're triggering
and how
Neptune.
about affordable housing and things like that? I mean, there's certain areas of building that are rebuilding after fires.
And you're triggering Neptune. So Jupiter is now going to be immediately trying to Neptune. Saturn's a little later in Aries at this point, but during the course of the year, it's going to go trying to it. And typically, whenever Jupiter and Saturn are trying to each other, it tends to be very good for the economy. One thing that's wacky right now is that with all the crap that's going on, all the crazy stuff that's going on that should be affecting the economy and affecting inflation and everything, globally, the economy keeps rising anyway. And the reason is we're in a 22-year solar cycle. Basically, the sun rises in energy for 11 years and then drops in energy for 11 years. When it hits the bottom point, the poles flip. What happens is during this rise, because the energy is coming from the sun is stronger, people grow more food. Well, when you create more food and you overall create more energy, everything rises. So even though we've got all these crazy things going on in the economy, they keep doing better anyway because we're on a rise point, and we're going to be on a rise point to about 2032. So that's part of what's going on. Now you're adding Jupiter, trine Neptune, which Neptune has a huge amount to do with energy and power production, and then sextile Uranus, which has to do with invention. Expect to see a lot of innovative energy inventions going on, things related to electronics, to communication,
AI.
Exactly, globally happening, because Jupiter's really like stoking that fire, you might say. So it's a very interesting transit that really need to pay attention to what's happening on a much bigger picture, because when you add in Uranus and Neptune, and of course Pluto, where did Pluto start this month? Pluto was at 5 degrees Aquarius. It's also going to sextile Pluto and Aquarius. So it's tying in, and we write about this, it ties in all the outer planets and Saturn and Jupiter. So realize when you're dealing with anything from Jupiter out, you're dealing with the big picture. Up to Mars is us. It's the personal stuff, the people we can touch. When you get to Jupiter out, it's the big picture, and they're all getting into these harmonious relationships. So this is a big transit, and are you lucky that you watched the forecast?
So that's it for June for now. Please don't be shy. Leave comments if you have any questions or observations about our forecasts. And we are opening the pre-orders for the 2027 calendar. They should be live to pre-order by the time you see this at planetarycalendar.com/orders. And we expect to deliver the wall calendars after we receive them from the printer, which will be by the end of June.
Yeah.
So I know how you early birds like to do your planning ahead for the year ahead.
It's
I'm
really
one of
true.
you.
We get a lot of like June sales. It's really funny.
We get May sales if we open
May
it
sales,
up in May.
yes.
So
That's true, yes.
yeah, everybody wants to know.
Yeah. Another thing that's going out too is, like I said, we're going to be uploading the pocket and the day planner pretty soon. But we have a new book called 5 Keys to a Successful Home Office. So if you're part of that work from home community, you might really find this interesting. We've been working with environmental design and feng shui for many years, and we've really worked hard to make it simpler for people and distill it down into these 5 keys that if people focus on that, they can dramatically improve not only their performance, but their enjoyment of the work. So we're going to put that up there on the website too. So I think we covered everything, yes?
I think so. Until next time.
Until next time, be well and
Good stars.
And keep watching the forecast.